Hello, I am Jillian Mason, and this is Medicare for. Hello, I am Jillian Mason, and this is Medicare for All, the podcast for everyone who needs healthcare. Whether you are a party planner or a community organizer, you know that since the pandemic, it has been really hard to get folks out of the house. And this totally makes sense, right? The news is depressing, our screen based scrolling culture is alienating, and our politics are polarizing to the point where like a casual conversation can easily escalate to throwing hands. So that being said, this month has been different. In response to Trump 2.0, we're seeing an uprising of activism in the streets with millions of Americans participating in hands-off protests and other actions to fight back against Trump's attacks on everything from migrant rights to Medicaid. What is behind this second wave of Trumpian resistance? As per usual, it's a lot of ordinary people deciding they can't wait any longer for change. So on today's episode, I'm going local and I'm talking to the leaders who are taking action in my Texas community to get some perspective on Resistance 2.0 and why it's all kicking off right now. So I'd love to welcome my guests. I call them the Indivisibilistas. They are the leaders of Indivisible Coastal Bend. I should probably make people guess what part of the country Coastal Bend is. I feel like it's ambiguous enough. We are in Corpus Christi, Texas, and these ladies are here to change the world. So why don't we just kick it off? Welcome, ladies. At the Medicare for All podcast, we always start with how we got here. So why don't we take a moment to hear from you, each of you, about who you are and what led you to decide to step up and take action. So if you could just introduce yourselves to our lovely audience. How about, I'm just going to go in the order of my screen. How about you, Misty?
Hey, all right. Misty Parker here. I am a professor at a community college around these parts. I'm a lifelong Texan, to my own shame, most of the time.
Oh,
But
don't be ashamed. It's the great
I,
state of Texas.
you can say that if you want. You're not from here. But we love that you made it here as fast as you could.
Oh, thank you.
Um, So no, I just I don't know, why did I get involved now? Honestly, because there's just no safety in silence. There's no safety in silence. There's no safety in isolation. And I thought I better find my community now before um, before it's too late. So I mean, really, it's crisis moment. It's like that crisis action for me. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No safety in silence. That is going to go on a Healthcare Now t-shirt. That's fantastic. How about you, Ashley?
I'm Ashley Schultz. I have been a stay-at-home mom for like almost 20 years now, and I'm a spicy romance author. So I think my career is kind of on the line as well when it comes to doing the book banning and all that kind of stuff, which is I guess
Ooh.
an issue that feels kind of personal to me. But I feel like I was kind of born overly empathetic, according to my family. I came into the world with a strong sense of justice that they did not understand. And I had tucked that part of myself away for a long time because I was kind of like the lone blue dot in my, generally reddish purple family. And I just got to the point where he got elected again, and I was like, I am legitimately frightened. I'm frightened for myself. I'm frightened for my children. I don't know what to do. And everybody was like, find your community, join hands with whoever's next to you, and get started. And that's what I was trying to do when I found Indivisible. I was looking for people that I could make a difference with because I knew I was not going to be able to make a difference on my own. And this kind of stumbled onto this kind of like ready-made group because Indivisible kind of has all these local chapters. And it was like, you don't have to start something, look and see if it's there. And I just kind of happened to stumble onto one that was in the process of kind of restarting because it kind of stopped being active during Biden's presidency, and they needed leadership. And they're like, hey, anybody that wants to sign up? And I was like, oh yeah, I'll do that. They won't really need me. I've been a stay-at-home mom. I don't have any skills to And they're like, you do something. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, so now here I am trying to figure out what to do.
That's amazing. Wait, can I ask you, can you tell the story about your husband really
Yeah,
quick?
for sure. Yeah, so that was part of that kind of that broader process of me being like, I feel like I need to do something, and we were kind of fussing a little bit because I'm a little bit farther to the left than he is, and he was like, and he says he was trying to kind of motivate me to take action instead of just complaining about stuff, and he was like, hey, well, you're all into this, but you're just a keyboard warrior, and I was like, oh my god, how could you say those words to me? What do you mean I'm just a keyboard warrior? And it's like, well, you're not doing anything. So I was like, well, I'm gonna fix that. I'm gonna go out there. I'm gonna do something. I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I'm definitely gonna do something. And I think I started that weekend where I was going through and trying to look at organizations that were close to me or even nationally that I might be able to help like from home. And now I'm out here doing all this stuff, and he's out carrying my bags and doing, he's driving me places. I get nervous about driving. He's like, no, I'll drive you. Don't worry, I'll drop you off and pick you up. He's like, I can't do what you're doing, but I'm going to support you while you do it. So
That is amazing. I can't believe I'm saying this, but husbands out there, tell the women in your lives they can't do it. Tell the women in their lives that you're not doing enough. You will come to regret it, but it's better for the rest of us.
yes, for sure. I'm sure now that when he's got to drive me places instead of going fishing or whatever, he wishes he hadn't said that to me. So.
Oh, that's amazing. Hopefully, we'll get time to talk about the spicy romance part too, as well, because that definitely appeals to me. But that's amazing. Thank you so much, Ashley. And last but absolutely never least, we have Stacy.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. You're good.
My name is Stacy Garrick, and I was a stay-at-home mom for, I guess, on and off. Most of my kids are 32, 29, and 23, and I also have a grandson. And I have struggled a lot with health issues, and it has affected me dramatically. That's one of the reasons that I'm here. And I think healthcare is so important for everyone. I didn't realize it in 2005 is when it was 2001 when I really got sick, and it was after my third pregnancy, and I was very silenced by the system. Like, I thought I was going to go to the doctor and they were going to fix me up, and I didn't realize it was going to turn into years of misdiagnosis. And then that was before the Affordable Health Care Act. And so all the medical bills started piling up. And I remember there was a moment that I sat down it was probably like 2003, and I sat in my bedroom and I laid out all the different bills that I had. And there were 67 bills, because every time you went to the hospital, you had every single doctor that you saw would send you a bill. You would have the lab.
Physiologist and the phlebotomist and the
Yeah.
absolutely.
And then you had the lab bill, you had the imaging bill, and then you had the ER bill. So I remember sitting there, and there were 67 of them, and I was thinking, gosh, and my phone was ringing off the hook, and the bills need to be paid. And I was like, if I paid $10 a month, that's $670. But the bills kept coming. So we ended up going into bankruptcy and pretty much lost everything. I lost my house. I lost my car. I lost our financial was destroyed because we didn't have good health care at the time.
Yeah.
So, but the long story short to all of that is I think that there needs to be change with the healthcare. And when Trump was elected and Project 2025, and reading through that and seeing everything that they wanted to dismantle, and they wanted to basically reverse the Affordable Care Act. It's like, I am so grateful for the Affordable Care Act, because now when I go to the ER, it's covered under one copay, $50. And that's because of the Affordable Care Act. But if that's gone, then I'm going to go back to having all these different, bills.
67 bills out on the table. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, on this is the Medicare for All podcast, so we spend a lot of time talking about the way that the abuse of the healthcare system, can radicalize folks or whatever. And that's one of the things that really appealed to me about the story of you three restarting this Indivisible chapter is that we've got folks coming from all different angles, including that really important healthcare angle as well. So I really just appreciate having y'all on, and I appreciate all the work that you're doing in our community. But so this is something that I always say that it's important that the nation hear from Texas because whatever is happening to them has already happened here first. And so, but we know that this is not just happening in Texas. This is happening all over the country, right? People are getting mad, taking action, getting in the streets, right? What do you guys think about this particular moment is really getting people to make that transition? Because it's a big one, right? From sitting at home and being sorry, Ashley, keyboard warrior, to like standing in front of your congressman's office demanding that he meet with you, right? What do you think it is about this particular political moment that's like really triggered people into getting involved?
I mean, for one thing, it's just like Trump and Musk and that entire crew of people are just really gross. Like, just deeply unlikable, insecure men that make it everybody else's problem. Their problem is everybody else's problem. There's just like a deep allergy that I've had my whole life to that. And like, I wish I could just say that my values are such that I would rise up against any, regime that was doing the wrong thing. And I hope so, I really do. But it's really, really easy for me to oppose this particular band of miscreants because they are just so just facially, vile. So that would be my really simplistic answer.
Yeah, no, that's as a professor of poli sci,
I like to go deep.
they're just ugly.
No, I
Well,
definitely think that's true. That I think it does make it really easy for people to see, because it's kind of like an outward reflection of the rot at the center of that whole thing. But I think for me, it was like I think I felt like I had kind of grown up in an era where I felt like maybe our country wasn't perfect, but we were making forward progress. We were seeing things that were seen to be changing for the better. Like implementing the Affordable Care Act, legalizing gay marriage. Trans and gay people being able to be more visible. It seemed like, there was definitely still room for critique and there was room for conversation, but it felt like, at least during my lifetime, that we were going in a certain direction and that direction was positive. And now it seems like that's not the case. We are not only not, we haven't just stopped making forward progress, we've now started rolling back progress that it had taken us a very long time to gain. And I think that makes people who previously felt like they were safe now feel unsafe. Right. So it's no longer just the people that had been on the front lines that were fighting, but people that had felt cozy and comfortable and like, oh, well, I'm probably okay, are now looking like, oh, well, maybe I'm not okay. Maybe it's not going to be okay for me. And maybe I better do something about that. So I think it's activating a new part of the American population that had felt content, to kind of trust in the process and that forward growth and the general progressiveness of things, to look at things and be like, oh, if we want to keep going that way, we got to start pushing again, so
yeah, absolutely. I hear that kind of echoing through things that a lot of people are talking about. Missy, you talked about like no safety in silence, right? And you bring up this issue of like people who were previously comfortable feeling unsafe. Yeah. And that also speaks to the kind of healthcare issue that you're talking about, Stacey, right? All it takes is, one chronic illness and all of a sudden, right, you're in a place where you maybe never imagined yourself, right?
Yeah, I think for me, it was because living in the state of Texas, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, I was in a place I couldn't be on birth control at the time because I had blood clots.
Yes.
So there was not a whole lot of birth control that I could have. And so the safety, going back to the safety, when it was overturned, the thought that I knew that my body couldn't go through a pregnancy because of everything, not having a pancreas, not having a spleen, a lot of my intestines, my colon, that was really terrifying. And I know that the whole thing was about putting it back to the states, but it put it back to the states. It really, what Roe v. Wade did is it invoked our 14th Amendment right to privacy.
Mm-hmm.
When you take that away, it's opening the door for so many things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that people in the rest of the country sort of forget that we were one of 13 states, I believe, with trigger laws in place. So, I mean, even though you might have had to wait a minute in your state, here in Texas, the second that Roe v. Wade was struck down, abortion became illegal in the state of Texas. And so this wasn't just like an impending fear, right? It was just one day, all of a sudden, this is an option that's completely foreclosed to you. And
we didn't get to vote. We did not.
Yes. God damn it. There's so many things in my life right now where I'm like, I didn't get to vote on this. Right? If anyone had asked me, I would have said no. Yeah, absolutely. I think those are all, and I think that those, really echo from what's going on all over the country, right? The feeling of vulnerability and of all of a sudden, I think also something about feeling like your body's under attack is like a really big thing, especially for, those of us who are women and femmes. So got to protect the dolls. So, yeah, all right. I think that, again, right, we've got this going on all over the country. A lot of these hands-off protests, which is one of the things that y'all organized. You've been particularly trying to get the attention of Michael Cloud, who is a U.S. representative who many people around the country probably have never heard of because he's been relatively quiet up until this point. But now he's fallen in with the Doge crowd, right? What is he on? Is he on like a subcommittee? The Doge
subcommittee.
Right. And we need to stop him from thinking that that's cool. So want to talk a little bit about what are some of the tactics that y'all have been using? Specifically, I was thinking of the rallies and then also the really, really awesome town hall that we did. You want to tell people about that?
Yeah, I'll start with because we planned the town hall and it was kind of Misty's brainchild of how she envisioned this to go. And there was 5 of us that were handpicked to go in on March 21st to personally invite Michael Cloud to a town hall that we were holding on April 17th. And so it was me and 4 other people in our community that went in and personally invited Michael Cloud to come to our town hall. He was not there. We had
Shocker.
There was a really nice woman that was there that basically told us that since he has been a representative since 2018 and has never held a town hall. So unfortunately, he did not show up. It was televised, the Channel 3, 6 News, and we made the front page of the Caller Times.
Which is our local big paper. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we had the empty chair. There was I think maybe 85 people that showed up, and we had planned that with less than a week. So I think we did really good. And then the town hall it was an empty chair town hall, but we had 270 people, and it was standing room only. And I'll let Misty or Ashley add to that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Misty was the brain power behind the town hall and all the kind of like the concept. You put together all of our outline and planning and stuff. So you take it away.
They're giving you way too much credit here, Misty.
Yeah, I really feel like I have a lot to live up to right now. I had weeks to come up with those plans. You're putting me on the spot right now. Look, part of the realization that we've all had, and we've talked about this, is this understanding that we've always been I think we've been socialized to believe that like there's like a hero that's like just around the corner that's going to save us, right? There's somebody or something or whatever is gonna come along, and then our pain will be taken away, our problems will be solved. And what's become just frightfully clear is there's nobody in this, at least in this part of the country, that's coming to save us.
Nobody anywhere. Let's be real. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, you're
yeah.
exactly right. So, what we wanted to do was just bring people in from the community who have insight to share, who have real working knowledge of policy, of the problems of the community, the problems of the country, who have innovative solutions to those, who are active, who are engaged in these things, because there are lots of them. And it's really, really easy, especially in a big sea of red, to believe that you don't have any resources and that there's nobody around who really understands or who's on your side or whatever. And so part of the idea is not just to like dog Michael Cloud, but that's a huge part of it. Like we want him to be ashamed and embarrassed. But we also want to remind people like you have resources here. And if you like right now, we need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of our own, so to speak. And so, look to these amazing people like Jillian, who has all of this healthcare knowledge, has all of this activism knowledge, and who can share all of these insights. So that was a real key driver of the way that we wanted to approach the town hall.
I was super lucky to be able to represent Healthcare Now, the organization that I'm an executive director of that produces your favorite podcast, the Medicare for All podcast, which we are listening to right now. But I got to represent Healthcare Now at the town hall, and I have to say, it was an electric event. That was really, really exciting. I also want to just give a little bit of context because I think that a lot of people don't know about Corpus Christi. But Corpus Christi in some ways is like a metaphor for the rest of the country. We're a medium-sized city. We have about 400,000 people here. So it's about like half the population of Boston, for example. But so it's a biggish city. And we are majority minority here, which, that's such a stupid term, right? We are actually majority Latinx here. The majority of people here can trace their ancestry back to Mexico. Many of the families here in Corpus Christi were actually in this country back when it was Mexico. They like to say they didn't cross the border crossed them. And so we have a really, really interesting and vibrant city with a lot of diversity and a lot of influence from different cultures. It's a beautiful little city. Everyone should visit. That is my pitch, and I hope that the Corpus Christi Tourism Board will compensate me accordingly. But regardless, right, in a city like Corpus Christi, which is not particularly political, it's a Gulf Coast city, we're kind of more chill vibes here. So the idea of getting that many people, 270 people out to a town hall is just, I think, really fantastic. And just the excitement in the air in that room. What were some of your favorite moments from the town hall? Because I have a few of them in my mind. You guys were so exhausted that night. You just spent 2 weeks. You're like, we got through it. That's the best part.
Yeah, I mean, if people showed up, like I mean that in like the most serious of all possible ways. I know that's a really silly answer.
No.
But again, like I had never done any kind of activism previous, like literal weeks before that night, right? I had never done any of this. We had all met, I think, like 4 or 5 weeks before that and just got started. So the fact that we were able to kind of put together an event and then people showed up and not just like the panelists, which was amazing, hearing all these experts that are like, yeah, I'll donate my time to this, but actual people in the audience came and showed up, and we needed more chairs, and we still didn't have enough room for everybody to sit down. I was like, wow, that's a thing that we have accomplished. We've gotten all these people in here, they're asking their questions, they're talking about issues, and I think that was literally that for me just felt like a real confirmation that what we were doing was something that was needed and wanted in the community.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, Stacey. Yeah.
I was just gonna say there was a doctor that came out and shared, his personal experience, and the really interesting thing that I have found is all the people that are coming out and speaking up. These are educated people. These are people that have PhDs, that have MDs, that are scientists, that are researchers. And in such a sea of red, I always thought that I was so alone. So just having that many people, and then even the hands-off rally that we had held, that was April 5th, there was 740 people, which I've heard is like the biggest that we've had turnout.
Oh, in Corpus?
In Corpus.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the last time we had that kind of a turnout in Corpus Christi was back when during the first Trump administration, when they tried to put a MAGA hat on the Selena statue. So basically, this is the time that people have been the most angry since the Republicans tried to fuck with Selena. Definitely huge. Definitely huge. Let me tell you. Okay, so here were two of my favorite things about the town hall, right? Number one, we are located on the Gulf of Mexico. And at some point, someone in the crowd was talking about like scientific research that might be cut by the Trump administration. And they said the words Gulf of Mexico, and the entire room erupted into applause. I never thought that just calling it the Gulf of Mexico would be a political statement, but here we are. I love that. And then I also, one of the things that I really loved about it and I thought was fascinating is that as we were all, as people were filing in, you had some folks you did a really great job of coalition building and getting different groups involved. And one of the groups was the Black Dems group. And one of the leaders from there, he pointed out like several people in the audience who were actually diehard MAGA. Who were diehard Republicans who are active in Republican causes. And he said, I wonder what they're here for, like, I wonder if they're here to heckle, if they're whatever. But they literally just sat and listened, there was no heckling. There was no people trying to disrupt or whatever. And that to me tells me that some of the people who are diehard Trumpers are starting to have a little bit of buyer's remorse. For those of you who are watching this on screen, you can see that Misty's cat desperately wants to be involved.
I can't stop her.
I desperately want to pet Misty's cat. So we are both on opposite sides of the screen feeling similar emotions.
The cat don't know what to do. This is what happened when I taught during COVID too, is I would just get cat bombed constantly, and I would be, we'd be having a great discussion about federalism or something, and then the cat, and then everybody would just be like, Getty! And that was the only thing that people could talk about after that.
She just wants to be famous.
It's true. Her name is Jolene, and I do worry that she could take my man. But to get back to the politics of it all, Jolene is always on the right side of history. But it does seem to me like we've got some of these Republicans are thinking like, is there a different thing that I should be listening to? Is there someone else that I should be listening to? And that I think is like super duper powerful.
One of the things that I really thinking about it now is there was the question, you see some of the town halls across the nation, which Indivisible is behind a lot of these town halls.
Mm-hmm.
And there was the question of, should we have security there? And it's been a little bit scary, seeing some things that have happened. But the fact that we did not have security, and everybody was very polite, everybody was respectful. There was no incidents. It was a really good night altogether.
Absolutely. And we live in a place where, this might not be the case if you're in, New York City, but we live in a place where our enemies are armed, and so it can be really, really scary stepping forward here, but it was a beautiful night. Still, right, even despite how fucking awesome that night was and how amazing the newspaper coverage and everything of all these actions have been, we have still not gotten to talk to Michael Cloud. And so I thought that this might be a nice opportunity if you just want to do like a thought exercise, you know that Michael Cloud is never going to meet with us, right? So you just have to imagine a situation where you've got him cornered, like maybe you're like in line at Buc-ee's in Victoria or something like that, and you've got him there and he's in line and he can't move, right? So I just want to hear from each of you. What would you say to Representative Michael Cloud if you could corner him?
Well, I mean, I think I would be kind of torn because on the one hand, it's like I know really two things about Michael Cloud, and the first is that he's a Republican, right? So my question from the Republican angle is how do you, coming from the party of law and order and following the Constitution, throw your weight behind a criminal who is trying to dismantle everything that the Constitution stands for? Because again, that you're a hypocrite, you are a traitor. You're a coward, because I think that is really the answer to the question. Is he's doing those things that are against the bedrock of everything Republicans have ever stood for, because he's afraid of Trump and he's afraid of the MAGA base. And the second thing that I know is that he professes, and I believe Missy has said this. She deeply believes that he strongly considers himself to be a Christian, and that not in that kind of performative to get votes kind of way. He believes it. How do you sit in church and listen to the stories of Jesus and the things that he did, and then the comfort that he gave to the marginalized and the hungry and the people who were desperate, and then turn around and do the things that he does and says to immigrants, to poor people, to people that need health care? Like, how do you not see and understand the hypocrisy between the things that you claim to believe in both of those areas and the stuff that you are doing?
Yeah. Amen. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Jesus told us that he who is first shall soon be last. Right. And Michael Cloud needs to know that he's going to be last.
Well, and there's love thy neighbor, is in the Bible. And we're not loving our neighbor. We are terrifying our neighbors.
Yes.
Scared to go out. People are scared to go to school. There's a lot of brown kids that are scared to go to school. But the fact that Michael Cloud is he's trying to codify the DEI rollbacks that Donald Trump was doing.
Yes.
Trying to codify that into law. And I find that really disturbing, because when you have words like the word female that is being rejected from the National Science Foundation, we don't have enough studies out there for women as it is. And I think Ashley was talking about this earlier, is we've made so much headway going forward, and it's like you pulled the tablecloth out from under, and everything is just falling apart, and it's terrifying, because in just these executive orders, and then you don't have the justice system that's going to stop him. Nobody's stopping him. So all these horrible things are happening, and Michael Cloud is right there instigating it and promoting it.
Yeah. Hold him a little accountable for that role, that new role that he's playing as a
it's not
leader.
He's not representing his constituents. So we need to make we need to make him more scared of his constituents than he is of Donald Trump.
Yeah, you're actually right on with what I would want to ask him, which is like, I mean, we clearly we can see what your vision for our nation is, right? Like, you want it to be a white evangelical cisgendered nation in which everyone else is diminished and silenced. And I always think, like, isn't it, gosh, what luck that you just happened to be born into the group that inherits all the good stuff, like what a coincidence that's the way. It's almost like God was made in man's image, rather than the opposite. But at any rate, so I'm very clear on what your national agenda is. What I'd like to know is, what is your agenda for our district? Like, and have you ever once asked your what their agenda for the district is?
Yes.
And do you have any heartburn over the possibility that those two things aren't super aligned? Or do you
Yeah.
just not care?
Right. That's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, are you sleeping at night? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, let's hope. I can't say for sure, but a lot of our congressional representatives are listening to the Medicare for All podcast. I'm just kidding.
I would also like it if Michael Cloud would just speak to us. Like, we've called in, we visited his office twice. Why don't you just speak to us? Have a
Yeah.
conversation, even if it's, but he keeps doing these reels and these posts, and it's so far gone from the constituents. And it's like he's forgotten.
Stacey, here's a perfect analogy to, like, so far gone from the constituents that on the day that we were holding the town hall, he was in fucking Greenland. Okay. So there's a perfect illustration of your point, Stacey.
Yeah. Yeah. You could not be further away.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just so excited to see y'all getting so excited about this political work and everything. And it's something like, in some ways, this is like definitely a new burst of energy. People all over the country who've never been involved before are now getting involved, and it's amazing. But in some ways, you are joining a movement already in process, right? So we have people like myself who have been slogging away at this for many years. And I kind of think that what we forget as people who have been involved with this, a lot of times you'll meet people who have been political for a long time, who've been organizing for a long time, and they'll want to tell you what to do. I'm sure I'm guilty of this as well. But I think that one of the things that we forget is to ask questions. So one question that I have for you guys is, as new activists, what do you think that people who have been doing this for a while can do to welcome you into the movement and to make space for your leadership?
I would like to comment on that because I got a phone call this past week, and it was somebody that had been an activist, a woman that's an activist for, maybe 10 years ahead of me. And she reached out just to see how I was doing and to ask, if there's anything that she can do to help. And then we met for coffee. And it's nice because it's like I think Ashley, Misty, and we agree that we signed up to do a weekly Zoom meeting. No idea that it was we didn't know we were going to be doing rallies. We didn't know we were going to be doing town halls. We didn't know that we were going to have this much positive from all the community. And so just knowing that we're not alone and that people that have been doing it long before us and getting their wisdom of, what we could do better or how to navigate this whole climate.
Yeah, I like both of the things you're saying there, right? Is like being able to be like a source of advice, right? But also just being able to recognize, if you've been doing this for a while, you recognize this is exhausting work. Exhausting work. And so just checking in on folks as they come up in the work is really critical, and making sure that people have the support that they need. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, very cool.
I think that everybody that I've met so far that has been involved in any of this stuff in any way has been very welcoming to us. And I think one of the things that I found really helpful is like every time we meet somebody and they're like, "Oh, let me introduce you to this person over here." Every single time I meet a new person, that somehow leads to me meeting another person who introduces me to another person. And it's like, it's like, oh yeah, that's actually super helpful, because then when we try to do stuff like the town hall, or we've got an upcoming event we're trying to do the weekend of May Day, where we're trying to to kind of get our members out to socialize a little bit, get to know each other. Now we have groups, so we can be like, oh, let's invite this group, let's invite that group, and we kind of we're in my brain we did a little training with you where it's like kind of like a power mapping thing. I think it was really about like finding out whose mind you're trying to change and who's got access to them. But in my mind, it's I'm thinking like, okay, coalition building. Let's figure out who are the people that are around me that I have access to, that I might be able to get to agree with me, and those kinds of things. I'm looking at, like, okay, well, we've got this, environmental groups, and we've got, people that are concerned about immigrants' rights. We've got people that are concerned about healthcare, and the labor unions, and I'm thinking about all these people that we need to kind of collect and get to our side and try to build an energized base that is willing to, through their connections, which hopefully would be, through us, we can kind of start to connect those people to get into that energized base. So yeah, connecting me to people, saying, here you go, here's all my friends, and here's all my friends' friends, and I'm like, yes, please hand me every name of every person you know.
So stop being a gatekeeper and start being a gate opener, right? Like, start sharing your network with people. Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Yeah. That is absolutely fabulous. So I want to kind of wrap up, because it's a Saturday night, and I know we've actually, we're a bunch of like middle-aged ladies. We probably all just want to sit on our couches with our cats. Dinner, definitely dinner. So I want to wrap it up, but I'd like to play this game, and it's like the one thing game. It's the executive order game, and so all of us, you're now engaged in this very long and tedious process of making change, right? But sometimes I think it could be a fun thought exercise to think about what would happen if you could make change one thing right away, right? So Donald Trump, of course, does not need to go through the long and slow process of making change. He doesn't need anyone to agree with him. And part of that is that he can just issue an executive order whenever he fucking feels like it. And apparently he can issue them via tweet, which is wild. Okay. If this is my closing question for you guys, if you could change one thing, if you had the power of executive order, you could change one thing to make things more positive for our country right now, what's that one thing that you would change?
Yeah, I would publicly fund elections.
Oh, yes.
Just ban private money in election campaigning, and just publicly fund them. Here's a pot. This is what you get. Once you're out, you're out.
That's a great one. Yeah, that's a great one. Ashley, Stacy, what would yours be?
I feel like there's so much. I know he's done hundreds of executive orders. So the idea that I get to pick one and he gets all the, and he doesn't even follow the rules of executive orders. It also pisses me off. It's like, oh yeah,
you're right.
I'm just going to
you don't have to either.
Decide that we're gonna, we're gonna round up whatever, But I think mine, I would probably pick environmental issues. Like I would really strengthen anything that I could regarding, protecting national parks, reducing greenhouse gases, those kinds of things. Honestly, at the rate we are speeding towards climate disaster, the rest of it is not going to fucking matter, because we're all going to be dead anyway. So preserving our ability to have a livable planet so we can hash out the rest of it later would be probably my priority.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I think mine would be to make it so that a convicted felon can't be the president.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, I think we weren't supposed to let him in after the whole insurrection thing, but somehow they just ignored that part. And I'm like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah, hold them really accountable to that whole law and order thing. Yeah. That's funny. You would think that. Yeah. Wow. Controversial statement. I think I'd ask our audience to think about that as well, right? We've got 3 people here who have never been involved in politics before, and yet if they had their way, we would have a much better country. And I think that's kind of a metaphor for what's happening all over the country. We've got people all over who have better ideas than the people that we have in power. And if we can just manage to get our way, we are going to have a much better life in this country for all of us. So I just want to thank you girls so much. I can't believe I called you guys girls. Sorry. You guys.
I'll take it.
God, what is wrong with me? Yeah. Thank y'all. And I really appreciate having you here. And again, thank you so much for the work that you're doing in our community. And thank you to all the folks all over the country who are standing up and taking action. We love you, and we appreciate you. So I also want to take this opportunity to thank our podcast team, our podcast managers, Angelique Davis, our show notes writer is Jerry Katz, and our Dynamo audio editor is Craig Stanton. I also want to remind you to like, subscribe, comment, and share with your friends. This podcast is a project of the Healthcare Now Education Fund, and you can support the pod by going to www.healthcare-now.org and clicking on the donate tab to send us some love in the form of dollars. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening. And to all of you out there, stay safe,